Transfer portal, just on fire. JoJo Earl, Chris Marshall. Let's talk about them for a second. Earl's from Alabama, Chris Marshall from Texas A&M. Those are the number 6 and 25 players in the portal, respectively. A couple of wide receivers. Why am I mentioning them in conjunction? Other than the fact that they're both receivers, TCU has landed crystal ball projections for both of them. You've heard of TCU. You know, they're doing things like going to the college football playoff. They are doing things like surpassing everyone's expectation in year one under Sonny Dykes. What do we have over there? Well, we got Quentin Johnson, who is just a stud receiver. What do we need to do? We need to reload, right? And so we look at Chris Marshall, 6'3", 205, got in trouble at Texas A&M off the field. I don't question his ability, nor do any football scouting types on the field. Does he keep his head on straight? That's what the next destination team is asking. JoJo Earl, more of an injury situation for him at Alabama this year, never got back on the field, at least as a starter. Still a very good player, you know, so it's just because you can't start at Alabama doesn't mean you couldn't start at 90% of the other programs in America. I don't think either of these guys are overrated in terms of skill set. So if TCU lands them, they're landing studs. They're landing high-level players. Keep an eye, because that's an interesting crystal ball pairing there, TCU for both of them. I want to talk about Tony Grimes for a second. Mentioned him briefly the other night, didn't really go into detail. I think a lot of you who follow recruiting hardcore remember five-star corner Tony Grimes coming out of high school a few years back. Remember, he skipped his senior season. There was a lot of talk, man, is he physically advanced enough to do that? Well, he's the number 3 overall corner in the transfer portal now. A lot of defensive guys have entered the portal from Chapel Hill. Make of that what you will. He's got 97 career tackles. There's a feeling, false alarm, Colin. There's a feeling from a couple of guys I've talked to, one of whom is a defensive coach, that when they watch Grimes, they think there's still some untapped potential there. So they don't think that he's emptied the reservoir. They watch his film and they say, we're probably getting 85% of what he's actually capable of. We think we can pull that final 15% out of him. Of course, everyone thinks that. Who are we watching here? We're watching Texas A&M. I think he's either visiting there or has already visited there. I think that's happening right now. USC is coming up. Virginia Tech is coming up, and probably not in a rush here. I think our Brian Doan reported he doesn't expect an immediate decision, nor should Tony Grimes be in a rush to make an immediate decision. He's going to have plenty of suitors. This position, corner right now, it's always a position that's premium. There aren't a ton of corners in the portal right now. So anyone who's shopping, and there are a lot of them, he can take his time. He will not run out of a landing spot. You know, Marshawn Lloyd is in the portal. That's the running back from South Carolina. Interesting times up there. I'm not going to talk about it tonight, but they're bringing in a new offensive coordinator. Very mixed reaction. Very mixed reaction up there from the natives, if you will, from the locals. So I have no clue if there's correlation here. I just know Marshawn Lloyd's a really good player, and he's in the portal. Now this year, he had 579 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns, dealt with injury. So injury's the question with him. Has been his whole career. But if you've watched him play, 5.2 yards per carry this year, that'll get it done. That's more than good enough. I picture him in an offense with a legitimate wide receiver core. You're looking at B-roll here. I don't really need to convince you he can play. Everyone's watched him play. So you keep him healthy. You get him surrounded by a good offensive supporting cast, which I don't necessarily think he had to a plentiful enough degree at South Carolina. He's a guy who just pops on you next year. And people who watch the sport already know about him, but I mean just becoming a national name. Also, I think it was Alan Cole, who covers the team up there, who tweeted out this stat. If you take Jaheim Bell, who I'm going to talk about in a second, Marshawn Lloyd, and Christian Beal-Smith, losing those 3 guys means South Carolina is losing 66.3% of their rushing yards from last year and 17 of their 27 rushing touchdowns. I think that's a pretty sizable chunk of your offense you're going to have to replace. So we'll see what Shane Beamer and company do there. And remember, now Bell's already headed to Florida State. It's not guaranteed these guys leave. It is not guaranteed Marshawn Lloyd's transferring. It's just a guarantee he's in the portal. There are portal flippers. There are portal dippers. We'll see where he lands. Hudson Card, been in there a little while now. I think Hudson Card went in the day the portal opened. That's the quarterback from Texas. Kind of the same deal as Spencer Sanders. doesn't have the pedigree nor the resume that Sanders does, but he's been around a while. He's played starting football for Texas. So look around and look at the quarterback dominoes now. They're not falling. They're just being set up in the portal, but they will start to fall. Spencer Sanders has not landed anywhere yet. Grayson McCall just entered. People didn't know he was going to enter. So instantly, the Coastal Carolina quarterback becomes the #1 quarterback in the transfer portal. And you see quickly how the quarterback market, what I think will happen is, whoever has the pole position there will choose his destination. Then a lot of them will start to come off the board. Not too dissimilar to how quarterback recruiting happens out of high school. But he's the #4 quarterback in the portal now. Be patient. Notre Dame, I think, could be in this. But again, Hudson Card has time to be patient because it doesn't matter how much you've been hated on online. There's always going to be a market for a guy who has started at quarterback at a place like Texas. Also, two guys who have found landing spots. Jaheim Bell was the tight end, formerly running back from South Carolina that we told you about the other day. #1 tight end in the portal, really good pass catcher. Think he found a good home. He committed to South Carolina over Florida State out of high school. He is now going to Florida State. And that is one, when you combine it with Jordan Travis returning at quarterback, and you just start to think about how he could fit in that offense, that Mike Norvell offense, I think he did okay for himself. Another guy is Levani Damuni, the linebacker from Stanford. David Shaw just retired out there, so probably you could see a few of those guys move on. He moved on to Utah. He's 6'2", 240, 162 tackles the past 2 seasons. Here's what's funny. He had a 12-tackle game against Utah this year. So they got an up-close and personal look at him. All Pac-12 honorable mention. And again, that's a guy where when you think of fit, you think of him plugging in to Kyle Whittingham's system out there. It stands to reason they'll probably have high expectation for him. He'll probably be on a lot of preview magazines come, let's say, July or August. So a lot's going on in the transfer portal. And remember, I was talking to a head coach yesterday, and there continues to be the belief that we've seen the first wave go in. There are some guys who are going to go in the portal. I'm telling you this with absolute 105% certainty. There are guys on high-level bowl teams and playoff teams that are going to wait until their season is over to enter the transfer portal. I mean, I'm talking about kids. I'm not singling anyone out, but if you've got kids playing for Georgia or playing for whoever, TCU, Michigan, that intend to enter the portal, Penn State, they're not entering the portal yet. That doesn't mean they're not going to. And when you're talking about kids on those teams, you could be talking about some high-level players. Oh, and by the way, we also have a secondary 15-day window post-spring, so just keep that on your radar. Guys, thanks for watching Late Kick. Make sure to leave a comment. I love interacting with you. But most of all, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's how we keep all of this free.